Picture this. You're sitting in front of your Christmas tree. The lights are twinkling. The presents have been wrapped and are tucked underneath the branches. Maybe you have carols playing in the background. Now, what if I told you almost everything about this scene was invented less than 200 years ago? The tree? Popularized in the 1840s. Santa in his red suit? That's from the 1800s, finalized by a Coca-Cola ad campaign in the 1930s. Christmas cards? 1843. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? 1939, a department store marketing stunt. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The Christmas you know, the one that feels ancient and timeless, is shockingly modern. And it's built on layers of pagan festivals, political maneuvering, Victorian sentimentality, and American commercial genius. But here's what nobody tells us. This has always been happening. Every generation invents Christmas, pretends it's ancient, and passes it on to be reinvented again. So where did Christmas really come from? And why does humanity's ability to create meaning out of nothing reveal something profound about who we are? Let's unwrap the truth. To understand how humans invented Christmas, you need to understand what they were working with. Thousands of years before Jesus, before Christianity, before anyone thought December 25th meant anything special, humans faced a problem. Winter was terrifying. Days grew shorter, the sun wasn't around as much, food ran out, and every year people wondered, what if the sun doesn't come back? The winter solstice, which happens around December 21st, the shortest day of the year, was the turning point. After this day, light would return. But getting to that day required something more than hope. It required rituals. Civilizations independently created winter festivals. Romans celebrated Saturnalia. Northern Europeans honored Yule. Persians observed Yaldabaoth. These celebrations weren't Christmas. They were rituals to survive winter wrapped in religious meaning. When Christianity arrived, it didn't destroy these festivals. It couldn't. People loved them too much. So, the church did something brilliant. They took pagan winter parties and said, this is about Jesus now. It was the first of many reinventions. And somehow, 2,000 years later, we're still doing it. Let's start in ancient Rome. Saturnalia was Rome's wildest holiday. It lasted 7 days in late December, ending on December 23rd. The festival honored Saturn, the god of agriculture and time. But this isn't what made Saturnalia unforgettable. It turned Roman society completely upside down. Slaves were temporarily freed. They could speak frankly to their masters without punishment. Some households had slaves sit at the table while masters served them food and wine. Imagine that. In a society built on rigid hierarchy, where your social position determined everything, Saturnalia said, not this week. Gambling became legal. Courts closed. Schools shut down. Wars were postponed. The Senate didn't meet. Everyone wore casual clothes instead of formal togas, and they put on felt caps normally worn only by freed slaves. The festival featured a lord of misrule, a person chosen by chance who could command anyone to do ridiculous things. A senator might be ordered to sing. A shy person could be forced to dance, and everyone had to obey. Why would the Romans even do this? Well, Saturnalia represented a golden age, a mythical time before inequality, when all people were equal and the earth provided abundantly. For 1 week, they recreated that world, and then they went back to normal, somehow more willing to accept their place in the hierarchy because they'd been reminded it wasn't eternal. People exchanged gifts, usually small wax candles and clay figurines. The candles symbolized the returning light after the solstice. Everyone participated, rich and poor alike. The gesture mattered more than the value of the gift. The poet Martial wrote poems about Saturnalia gifts. Some were practical, like writing tablets, while others were absurd. His work shows that gift-giving was expected but didn't need to be extravagant. Public feasts were held. Wealthy patrons provided food for entire communities. Failure to do so meant losing respect and social standing. And there was drinking, a lot of drinking. Seneca, the philosopher, complained about the noise and chaos. He called it a time when the whole mob has let itself go in pleasures. But even the critics participated. The festival was too important to ignore. When Christianity began spreading through Rome, Saturnalia had been celebrated for centuries. The Romans loved it. Eliminating it would have caused massive resistance. So the church didn't eliminate it. They adapted it. Meanwhile, in Northern Europe, people celebrated Yule. Yule was a multi-day winter festival. Germanic and Norse peoples gathered to honor the turning of the year. They burned Yule logs, massive pieces of wood that would smolder for days, symbolizing the sun's warmth and the promise of spring. They feasted on whatever food they had stored from harvest. They drank ale brewed specially for the occasion. They told stories of gods and heroes around fires. Yule also featured sacrifices. Animals were slaughtered, and their blood was sprinkled on altars and people. This wasn't random violence. It was a sacred act meant to secure the gods' favor for the coming year. Have you ever heard of the Wild Hunt? According to legend, during the darkest nights of winter, a supernatural hunting party rode through the sky. Led by Odin, the Allfather, this spectral procession included ghosts, spirits, and the dead. Hearing the wild hunt overhead was an omen. Seeing it was dangerous. Getting caught by it could be fatal. People stayed indoors during these nights. They left offerings outside to appease the riders. The winter solstice was liminal, a threshold between worlds when normal rules didn't apply. Magic was stronger, and the dead walked among the living. When Christianity arrived in Northern Europe, missionaries faced the same problem they'd faced in Rome. People weren't going to give up Yule. So again, adaptation occurred. The Yule log became a Christmas tradition. Feasting on Christmas Day echoed Yule banquets. Even the idea of Santa Claus flying through the winter sky has echoes of Odin's wild hunt. But how does all this connect to the birth of Jesus? Here's a question nobody can definitively answer. When was Jesus actually born? The Bible doesn't say. The Gospels give no birth date. Matthew and Luke describe the Nativity, but neither mentions December 25th or December anything. We know roughly when King Herod died, which gives us a time frame, but that's it. Jesus was probably born sometime between 7 and 4 BCE, but the specific date is totally unknown. Early Christians didn't celebrate Jesus' birthday at all. In the 2nd and 3rd centuries, Christian writers rarely discussed it. When they did speculate on it, they proposed various dates. May 20th, April 19th, April 20th. None of them suggested December 25th. Some early Christians have theological reasons to avoid fixing a birthday. Jesus was eternal, they argued. He didn't have a birthday in the way humans do. Celebrating it seemed too pagan, too focused on the physical rather than the spiritual. Origen, an influential 3rd century theologian, went further. He argued that only sinners celebrated birthdays. He pointed to the Bible. The Pharaoh celebrated his birthday and someone died. King Herod celebrated his birthday and John the Baptist was executed. Righteous people in Scripture didn't celebrate birthdays. So why is the birth of Christ celebrated on December 25th? There are two main theories. The calculation hypothesis suggests Christians determine the date through theological reasoning. Ancient Christians believed great prophets died on the same date they were conceived. If Jesus died on March 25th, the accepted date of the crucifixion, then he was also conceived on March 25th. This means he would have been born 9 months later, on December 25th. This calculation appears in Christian writings from the early 3rd century, before December 25th was widely celebrated. This suggests the date came from theology, not from pagan practices. But there is also the history of religions hypothesis. In 274 CE, Emperor Aurelian established the cult of Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun. He made December 25th the festival holiday. This was strategic. The sun was universal. Everyone could see it, benefit from it, and worship it. By placing the sun god's festival on this date, Aurelian created an empire-wide celebration that united diverse peoples. Sol Invictus became tied to imperial power. Emperors appeared on coins with solar crowns, radiating light. Worshipping the sun god meant affirming loyalty to the empire. When Constantine converted to Christianity in 312 CE, he didn't immediately eliminate pagan festivals. That would have caused too much resistance. But by the early 4th century, Christians in Rome began teaching that Jesus was born on December 25th. Coincidence or strategy? Christians could have said, "You celebrate the sun's birthday on December 25th? Well, we celebrate the birth of the true light of the world, Jesus Christ, the Son of Righteousness." The light imagery was perfect. Jesus, as the light of the world, fit naturally with existing celebrations of the sun's return after the solstice. The truth probably involves both factors. Christians might have calculated December 25th independently, but they also recognized that this date coincided with Sol Invictus. Rather than seeing it as a problem, they viewed it as divinely ordained. God arranged for Jesus to be born when pagans celebrated the sun's rebirth so that Christians could proclaim the arrival of the true light. By the early 4th century, the date of December 25th had been accepted in Rome. The Eastern Church initially used January 6th, Epiphany, but eventually both dates were incorporated. December 25th became Christmas, January 6th became Epiphany. The 12 days between them became the Christmas season. But here's what's crucial to understand. The Church didn't just preserve traditions handed down from Jesus and the apostles. It actively created traditions using theological reasoning, cultural awareness, and political strategy. The Church Fathers made decisions about how to structure Christian life, and one of those decisions was to place Jesus' birthday on the same day pagans already celebrated. That decision shaped the next 2,000 years. By the Middle Ages, Christmas had become the Christian calendar's biggest celebration. But medieval Christmas would barely be recognizable to us today. There were no Christmas trees, no Santa Claus, no shopping frenzies, no carols like Silent Night or Jingle Bells. Instead, medieval Christmas was a season of feasting, drinking, role reversals, and controlled chaos that lasted 12 days. The nobility feasted extravagantly. Boar's heads, roasted peacocks presented in full plumage, swans, venison, elaborate pies filled with live birds that flew out when the crust was cut, spiced wine, imported fruits, sugar sculptures. These weren't just meals, they were performances of wealth and power. The Lord of Misrule tradition continued from Roman Saturnalia. A person, often chosen randomly, was given temporary authority to command others to do ridiculous things during the Christmas season. This mock king presided over festivities, turning the social order upside down for a brief period. Entertainment was constant. Minstrels performed, jugglers and acrobats demonstrated their skills, storytellers recounted tales. As the evening progressed and drinking increased, dancing and games became wilder. For peasants, Christmas was simpler, but still special. Pigs were slaughtered, families had fattened them through autumn, and Christmas provided reason to butcher rather than waste winter feed. Fresh pork was a luxury after months of grain-based meals. Geese were another treat. A roasted goose represented success and abundance. Families who couldn't afford pigs or geese might pool resources with neighbors to share an animal. Christmas bread was better than everyday fare. Special breads were baked in symbolic shapes like stars, animals, or crosses. Ale flowed, though perhaps less freely than in castles. But medieval Christmas also included something we have since lost: wassailing. Groups of people, often the poor or young community members, went house to house singing songs and offering blessings. In return, they expected food, drink, and sometimes money. The word wassail comes from the Old English was hael, be healthy. The wassailers offered good wishes for the household's prosperity. Refusing them was considered bad luck. The wassail bowl was decorated and filled with spiced ale, roasted apples, and bread. When a household welcomed wassailers, everyone drank from the communal bowl, creating shared community. But sometimes the tradition walked a fine line between festive charity and social pressure. Wassailers might hint that refusing them would bring misfortune. Some groups became genuinely threatening, implying violence if turned away. For the poor, wassailing was essentially sanctioned begging, but it was wrapped in tradition so everyone could feel good about it. The wealthy displayed generosity. The poor sang and offered blessings. Resources moved from those with plenty to those with little, allowing the social order to stay intact. Gift-giving in the medieval period wasn't about exchanging presents between friends and family like we do today. It reinforced hierarchies. Lords gave to vassals and servants money, cloth, food, as recognition of service. The wealthy gave to the church to support clergy and reduce time in purgatory. Giving to the poor was especially meritorious at Christmas. The church provided communal celebration that crossed class lines. Rich and poor attended the same Christmas services, heard the same sermons, and sang some of the same hymns. But even in church, class distinctions remained. The wealthy had better seats. After services, nobles returned to castle feasts while peasants returned to simpler celebrations. And then there was St. Nicholas. The real Nicholas lived in the 4th century in Myra, in what's now Turkey. He was a bishop known for his generosity and miracle working. According to legend, he saved 3 poor sisters from prostitution by secretly throwing bags of gold through their window. The gold landed in stockings hung to dry, which is supposedly why we hang stockings at Christmas. Nicholas died on December 6th. That date became his feast day. It was celebrated across Europe with gift-giving and special meals. In some regions, Nicholas appeared as a saintly figure rewarding good children. In others, he was accompanied by darker companions, Krampus in Alpine regions, Zwarte Piet in the Netherlands, who threatened to punish or kidnap naughty children. St. Nicholas's Day remained separate from Christmas for centuries. The gift-giving happened on December 6th, not December 25th. But eventually, these traditions would merge and transform. In 1647, England did something shocking. It banned Christmas. The Puritan-controlled Parliament outlawed Christmas celebrations. Shops were required to stay open on December 25th. Feasting was forbidden. Decorations were banned. Anyone celebrating risked fines or arrest. Why would they do this? Puritans believed Christmas had become too worldly and too pagan. It seemed as if the people were no longer worshiping Jesus. The Puritans argued, likely correctly, that December 25th wasn't even Jesus' birthday. They pointed to the Bible, which gave no instruction to celebrate it. Most importantly, they hated the disorder. The feasting, the drinking, the role reversals, the Lord of Misrule, it all seemed dangerously close to paganism and social chaos. So they tried to eliminate Christmas entirely. The ban was very unpopular. Riots broke out. In Canterbury, the mayor was attacked for trying to enforce it. Pro-Christmas protesters clashed with authorities. People secretly celebrated anyway, risking punishment to maintain tradition. When the monarchy was restored in 1660, Christmas returned, but it never fully recovered its medieval extravagance. The Puritan critique had damaged Christmas's reputation. In New England, the Puritans also banned Christmas. From 1659 to 1681, Massachusetts outlawed Christmas celebrations. Anyone caught celebrating faced fines. For decades, Christmas remained controversial in America. It wasn't a federal holiday. Many businesses stayed open. Schools held classes. Christmas was dying. By the early 1800s, it seemed like it might disappear entirely, at least in Protestant cultures. And then something unexpected happened. The Victorians saved it. In 1843, Charles Dickens published A Christmas Carol. The story was simple. Ebenezer Scrooge, a cruel miser, is visited by three ghosts on Christmas Eve. They show him his past, present, and future. Confronted with his own death and the suffering he has caused, Scrooge transforms into a generous, joyful man. The book became an instant sensation. Dickens performed dramatic readings of it for years. It shaped how millions understood Christmas. But Dickens did more than create a best-selling novel. He reinvented Christmas as a domestic, sentimental celebration focused on family, generosity, and redemption. Dickens's Christmas wasn't religious. Scrooge doesn't go to church in the story. There's no nativity scene. Jesus barely appears. Instead, Christmas became about human kindness, family bonds, and second chances. It was emotional, accessible, and profoundly appealing to the Victorian middle class. A Christmas Carol told the Victorians that Christmas was supposed to be warm, generous, and family-focused, and they believed it. That same decade, another transformation occurred. In December 1848, the Illustrated London News published an engraving showing Queen Victoria, Prince Albert, and their children gathered around a decorated Christmas tree. The image presented the royal family as a model domestic family celebrating an intimate Christmas. It changed everything. The Christmas tree had German roots. Prince Albert brought the tradition when he married Victoria. In German territories, decorated evergreen trees had been popular on Christmas since at least the 1600s. However, earlier attempts to popularize Christmas trees in England had failed. Albert's attempt succeeded because of deliberate image-making. The 1848 illustration was carefully staged. Victoria and Albert appeared as parents, not distant monarchs. The children played with toys. The tree sparkled with candles but wasn't ostentatiously huge. The scene radiated warmth, prosperity, and family harmony, exactly what the middle class wanted to achieve. The image's impact was amplified when Godey's Ladies' Book, America's most popular women's magazine, reproduced it. The American version cleverly removed Victoria's crown and Albert's royal sash, making them look like any prosperous family. Within decades, Christmas trees became an essential part of the holiday. A German custom barely known in the English-speaking world before 1840 had become fundamental. People assumed it had always been around. The tree trade became big business. Importers brought Norwegian spruces by the shipload. Entrepreneurs harvested trees from northern forests, shipping them by rail to cities. German glassblowers created delicate ornaments. Tinsel was invented from real silver. Candles required special clips. Paper ornaments, candy canes, strung popcorn, and cranberries were cheaper alternatives. The Christmas tree also solved a Victorian problem: how to give gifts without seeming materialistic. Gifts weren't given by people. They appeared mysteriously beneath the tree, delivered by Father Christmas or Santa Claus. Safety was a real concern, though. Candlelit trees caused fires. Newspapers reported Christmas tree disasters. Families lit trees briefly, with water buckets standing ready. The danger added to the tree's special quality, making it a brief, blazing moment of beauty. In 1843, the first commercial Christmas card appeared. Henry Cole commissioned artist John Callcott Horsley to design a card he could send to friends instead of writing individual letters. The card showed 3 generations of a family toasting the viewer with wine. Side panels depicted charity, feeding the hungry and clothing the poor. The message, "A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you." The card was controversial. Some criticized it for showing children drinking wine, but it sold well and the idea caught on. By the 1860s, Christmas cards had become popular. Improved printing technology made them affordable. The Postal Service offered special rates for holiday mail delivery. Cards featured snowy landscapes, robins, holly, bells, and angels. They ranged from religious to whimsical to bizarre. Victorians loved elaborate and sentimental designs. Christmas cards maintained relationships across distances. They demonstrated taste and cultural awareness through card selection. They also created obligations. Receiving a card meant sending one back. And then came the Americans. They turned Christmas into big business. America took the Victorian Christmas and commercialized it on an unprecedented scale. Department stores led the transformation. Macy's, founded in 1858, pioneered the Christmas window display. Elaborate scenes featuring toys, decorations, and moving figures drew crowds. By the 1870s, these displays had become major attractions. Stores didn't just sell goods, they sold Christmas itself. They created Santa's grottos where children could meet him. They offered gift wrapping services. They published guides recommending gifts. In 1890, James Edgar, a store owner in Massachusetts, became one of the first to dress as Santa for children. The idea spread quickly. By the early 1900s, department store Santas were common. This shifted the dynamic of Christmas. Children no longer asked parents directly for gifts. They appealed to Santa. Parents became intermediaries, quietly purchasing what Santa had promised. The advertising industry seized on Christmas. Ads promoted more than products, they sold emotions. Make this Christmas special. Show them how much you care. The equation of spending with loving became central to American Christmas. In 1931, Coca-Cola hired artist Haddon Sundblom to paint Santa for their holiday campaigns. His warm, grandfatherly, realistic Santa appeared on billboards and in magazines for more than 30 years. Coca-Cola didn't invent the red suit, but Sundblom's images embedded this version of Santa deep into global consciousness. Around the world, children learned about Santa through Coca-Cola. American manufacturing provided the foundation for Christmas gift-giving. Factories mass-produced toys. The teddy bear, created in 1902, became the first must-have toy. Lionel's electric trains became Christmas morning staples. Electric tree lights, first demonstrated in 1882, became affordable by the 1920s. Credit systems reinforced all this abundance. Christmas club accounts, introduced in 1909, encouraged year-round saving. Layaway plans let families reserve gifts with modest deposits. Buying on credit for Christmas became common by the 1920s. Commercialization drew criticism. Ministers warned about materialism. Reformers complained about debt and waste. The Society for the Prevention of Useless Giving, founded in 1912, campaigned against obligatory gifts. But this resistance was futile. Too many groups benefited. By 1920, the economy depended on holiday spending. In 1939, Montgomery Ward department store faced a problem. They gave away coloring books every Christmas, buying them from outside suppliers at considerable expense. Robert Louis May, a copywriter, was assigned to create an in-house Christmas story. He wrote about a reindeer with a glowing red nose who saves Christmas by guiding Santa's sleigh through the fog. Yes, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was born as a marketing tool. Montgomery Ward distributed millions of copies. In 1949, Gene Autry recorded the song version. It became one of the best-selling songs ever recorded. Rudolph was entirely invented. No centuries of tradition, no religious significance, just a department store advertisement that somehow became canon. Frosty the Snowman followed in 1950. The pattern was clear. Modern Christmas was being built by corporations, advertisers, and popular media as much as by tradition. Christmas, the world's biggest religious holiday, celebrated by billions as the birthday of Jesus Christ, is built on layers of pagan festivals, Roman politics, medieval feasting, Victorian sentimentality, and American capitalism. Almost nothing about modern Christmas comes from the Bible or early Christianity. The December 25th date? Calculated for strategic reasons or borrowed from sun worship. The tree? German pagan tradition popularized by Victorian royalty. Santa Claus? A mashup of St. Nicholas, Father Christmas, and American commercial imagination, finalized by Coca-Cola. Rudolph? A 1939 department store marketing stunt. Gift-giving? Evolved from Roman Saturnalia and medieval hierarchy reinforcement into modern consumer obligation. The big family dinner? Victorian domesticity blended with ancient winter feasting. Even the Christmas spirit of generosity and goodwill? That's Charles Dickens, more than gospel writers. Christmas is a beautiful cultural construction, a tapestry woven from thousands of years of human creativity, adaptation, and yearning for light in dark times. It's not ancient and timeless, it's constantly evolving. Every generation adds new layers, discards old ones, and claims their version is the real Christmas. So what does this reveal about humanity? We need celebration during dark times, whether it's ancient Romans fearing the dying sun or modern families seeking connection during cold months. The impulse is the same. We're remarkably good at adaptation. Christianity didn't destroy pagan festivals, it transformed them. The church took existing celebrations and gave them new meaning. That's not a weakness, it's brilliance. It's how ideas spread and cultures blend. We crave tradition, even when we're inventing it. Victorians created ancient Christmas customs that were actually brand new. Americans embraced commercial Christmas while insisting it's timeless. We constantly invent traditions and then forget we invented them. Commerce and culture are inseparable. We like to think Christmas should be pure, non-commercial, and spiritual, but economics have always shaped it. Medieval lords used feasts to display power. Victorian merchants used Christmas to sell cards and trees. Modern corporations use it to sell everything. The line between sacred and secular is blurry. Is Christmas a religious holiday, a cultural celebration, a commercial event, a family tradition? Yes, to all of it. Christmas contains multitudes. It's big enough for church services and department store Santas, for nativity scenes and Rudolph, for midnight mass and Die Hard. Our modern Christmas, for all its contradictions, commercialism, and invented traditions, serves deep human needs. The need for light in darkness, for generosity in times of scarcity, for family connection in isolating times, for magic and wonder in a rational world, for hope that things can be better. Christmas works not despite being invented, but because it keeps being reinvented. Each generation takes the pieces handed down and rearranges them into something meaningful for their time. The ancient Romans feasting during Saturnalia, the medieval peasants wassailing, the Victorian families gathered around their first Christmas trees, the modern kids writing letters to Santa. They're all doing the same thing, creating warmth and meaning during the darkest time of year. And that's what Christmas has always been about. Not historical accuracy or theological purity or commercial restraint, but human beings collectively deciding that late December should be special. And somehow, despite everything, despite the contradictions and commercialism and invented traditions, it works. Every year, billions of people around the world participate in this massive shared celebration. They decorate trees, exchange gifts, gather with family, and feel something special. Is it historically accurate? No. Is it religiously pure? No. Is it non-commercial? Definitely not. But is it meaningful? Absolutely. Christmas is humanity's greatest collaborative creative project. We've been building it for thousands of years, and we're still not done. If you want to dive deeper into the surprising twists, the forgotten details, and the incredible journey of how Christmas became the world's favorite holiday, there's so much more to explore. The story we've just covered is actually just the surface. There are the mystery plays that shaped how people visualize the Nativity, the evolution of Christmas carols, the wild regional traditions still practiced today, from Italy's gift-giving witch to Japan's KFC Christmas dinner. The complete journey with every detail, every twist, and every cultural transformation is in the book The History of Christmas, a captivating journey for Christmas lovers, how myths, magic, and time shape the world's favorite holiday. It tells the story in a way that's both scholarly and genuinely engaging. Whether you love Christmas for its religious meaning, its family traditions, or just the feeling of magic, this book will show you that Christmas isn't just one story. It's dozens woven together across centuries. You can find the link in the description below. Thanks for watching. If this changed how you think about Christmas, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's biggest mysteries. Happy holidays and happy history hunting!